are coming in from different communities, I should say. And from that particular perspective, you would expect that there are lots of things that keep on happening, and there are lots of that the government is trying to work upon. Now, from that particular situation is where we're going to have our report regarding this issue of Agago. Now, if we were to look at it, just a simple brief about exactly what is this. This is according to the Famine in Karamoja. From this perspective of the new vision, we've looked at the issue to do with the press review, where the government has earmarked some money that is actually going in for the refugees in the region. If I'm to get the particular amount of money before different regions across Uganda, but especially Agago and Karamoja district have raised concerns of famine in these regions. For example, no food, thousands of people are starving. They want the government to intervene and provide food for them. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister assures them that the government has already started taking food to Karamoja as well as seeds to plant. And it's upon that background that we get to look at what the Prime Minister has to say. And we also have Honorable Langen David from Agago County, and then the woman MP in Napak, Honorable Nakut Faith Luru, on the issue of famine in this region.
And 998 acres of crops. And there are 308 households that has been affected. If you see the place has become a desert. You don't see the crops. Crops like maize, peanuts, sunflower, soybean, including cattle and goats. 10 goats were killed by the hailstorms. And 2 cows. The community now are at total loss.
Prayers, Honorable.
My prayer is, my community are suffering. There is famine already. We need the office of the Prime Minister, especially the Office of Disaster and Relief and Preparedness, to emergently respond to give our food items. And then the second one, we need seed for replanting, because the seed they planted is destroyed. So we are more seed to be given. At least within 2-3 months, they will be able to harvest. Okay. So it is my humble that my submission is taken into consideration. And
unfortunately, in our movement throughout the region in Karamoja, we found out that our people were starving and literally dying. I visited some village where I found the burial of a family who had all died to starvation. As of last week, by Friday, documented deaths in Napak that had been verified were 46. In Kabong, there were 189. In Moroto, there were 45. In Koti, 100. Yes, we acknowledge there have been responses by the Office of the Prime Minister. On the 7th of June, food was distributed in Karamoja, each district settling for 100 tons of maize flour and beans, and it was targeting the most vulnerable. Unfortunately, the quantities supplied were not reasonable to feed a family for a week. Each went for a kilogram of beans and about 3 of posho, which you consume for a meal or 2 and get back to your level. Now, as we speak, there are thousands of people. The food security report puts people at risk at a number of 518,000. People waiting to die if no action is taken. That's why I raised this matter now. I should have raised it on the 5th. My prayers are these: that the Parliament ask the Office of the Prime Minister to find food from whichever source
Right Honorable colleagues, Cabinet sitting yesterday noted the concerns of our brothers in Karamoja and came up with the following proposals. One, that the Ministry of Finance comes up with a budget, 135 billion, to provide food for our brothers and sisters in Karamoja for at least 3 months, including seeds for them to plant so that they can survive.
Colleagues,
And two,
listen, colleagues.
they directed the Prime Minister's office to provide immediately food, and I want to assure you colleagues that has gone over 200 metric tons of food has now left the Prime Minister's stores to Karamoja as I talk today. And the three, we want the Minister for Karamoja, my sister is here, she's going to add on what I've told you. Then three, we see how to secure, because one of the reasons why our people are not productive is because of insecurity.
And right now, looking at that particular situation in regards to the to what I was actually highlighting from the news here, the press review, government is sending 135 billion relief to save hunger-stricken communities. Now, these hunger-stricken communities that are in the Karamoja region, that is according to the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Robin Anab. When you look at that particular situation, this is not only for the areas in, let's say, that belong to the Karamanjongs, I should say, but the entire Karamoja regions that is actually facing challenges to do with famine. 135 billion shillings have been earmarked in that particular one, and that is what the government is going to be sending in. Now, Prime Minister did tell Parliament yesterday during the same session that Cabinet has considered the concerns of famine in Karamoja and directed Finance Minister to cope up with a budget of 135 billion shillings to provide food to communities at the edge of starvation in Karamoja. So this followed an appeal from MPs from Karamoja sub-region calling for government's immediate intervention by providing food to the families that have been affected by hunger. And when you look at some of the MPs or members of Parliament who have actually said that it is actually a global, or rather a countrywide, which not only needs government to focus more on the Karamoja region, but to at least look at all those particular societies and communities in the area that need this to get done. So also from that perspective, during the plenary on Tuesday, Napak Women MP, we've actually seen Faith Nakut raise the matter of nations over acute food insecurity in the Karamoja region. And this is something of national importance, reason being that during the presentation of the national budget, President Museveni did highlight something to do with food security as something very important and something very crucial in the world. Now, she said that thousands of people will die if no action is done. And in her prayers, the Member of Parliament requested the Prime Minister's office to find food from wherever and provide it to the people of Karamoja who were starving. She raised concerns regarding the high levels of famine in the Karamoja region, saying that thousands of people are in dire need of food and will die if no action done. So, speaking of which, in the same situation, there are reports in the media that people from Karamoja sub-region were dying of starvation. The reports indicated that several lives had been lost due to acute starvation, and in her response, Premier Government is dispatching relief food that will last for at least 3 months. Now, this 3 months will also include seeds and seedlings so that locals can also plant their own food. And also from that same perspective, Nakut called on government to prioritize them and not waste time in meetings, because the issues of meetings and procedures should be put aside, but rather send food to the starving communities. Now, through the food, they will as well send seeds, which seeds will be planted and in the long run create growth, I should say, because now you would not only wish to plant food, but you would want to plant, and you would only not wish to give people ready food, but at least give them another provision of giving them room to at least plant something, that even when you cannot provide anymore, they still can make their own food, or they can still they can still grow their own food, and at the end of the day get it from them. So it's exactly what you'll be expecting, or what you're expecting perspective in there. So looking at that in the situation, you would want to say one or two things. That the Prime Minister will appear again this week on Thursday. That is according to the Right Honourable Thomas Tayebwa, who chaired that session. The Prime Minister should be back on Thursday to complete the schedule, highlighting how government is going to send the relief to Karamoja, and also treat this matter with urgency, because it is something to do with, one, food security, then two, something that the government has to work upon to ensure that the livelihoods of the citizens in Uganda, more so those in Karamoja, who are facing issues to do with famine, and those from the Karamoja region and the neighboring communities can benefit from this. But as of now, as you can see, it is 135 billion shillings that have been, according to the Prime Minister, in regards to famine cause in Karamoja regions. And with that, we're heading into the third hour of the show, which is bringing us to the topic of discussion. In our topic of this, we're looking at one among many things, the trader community from the perspective of the small and medium-sized enterprise. We will be looking at the new taxes. How are they impacting the business community, trader community in from the SME's perspective? And then we're also going to look at how they are impacting on the growth of the economy, and also during their celebrations, what are some of those key things that they looked at to ensure that this year there is a possible economic recovery. When we return, we have the president of the small and medium-sized enterprises to look deeper onto that topic of discussion. Good morning, and thank you for keeping it Smart Means Business. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Stick around. I'll be right back.